My dear students, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is Dr. Amal Kiyumi again, and we have this recorded lecture for the second lecture presentation about factors influencing education systems in general. And of course, we will need some discussion in it in how these are applied and influencing the education system in Oman. Before I start the presentation, I just wanted to inform all of you, those who are not included in the WhatsApp group that are led by your brother Mazen, to please take the number, Mazen's number, and let him include you or include you in the WhatsApp group as soon as possible, because it's really important that I contact you with different by varied ways. One of the ways is the WhatsApp group with some voice messages that I might send to Mazen, who is going to send it to the WhatsApp group. So I want all of you, the 14 people, to be included. Mazen's number will be available. I'll put it for you in the in your course in the Moodle, for those people who do not know, especially those people who did not attend the first lecture. Let's start now. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Our lecture, factors influencing education systems. Of course, there are different factors that influence the education system: the shape, the number, the way, the content, the curriculum, the leading and the administration of the education system. As we said, our education system is an open system, which means that all the surrounding environment is influencing it, because it's open to all the factors, to all these influences that affect its content, its processes and procedures, and also it as products and outputs influence also this or this surrounding environment. Our discussion today is on the factors that are coming from the surrounding environment of the education system, and how these factors influence, direct, shape the education system processes and products. And we will discuss the geographical factors, economic factors, cultural, demographic, political, and technological factors. 6 factors. First one, that is the geographical factors. Geographical factors actually influence the education system in 3 ways. 3 different ways. The first way is by climatic conditions, الوضع المناخي, or the climate of the country. The content of education depends on the continental climate, or the society, or the country's climate. For example, sometimes training some doctors, for example, physicians, in those places where tropical places or tropical countries, areas, is likely to focus on more tropical diseases. So those teachers will be trained, or those doctors, trainee doctors, will be trained on those tropical diseases that are distributed and that are known in that climate, in the country's climate, and with those people, or the country's people. This is more influential and more efficient and beneficial, because actually those doctors need to know the diseases that always is shown in the people who live in that place. So they need to be trained. They need to know the ways to treat people in these diseases, more than the diseases that are not actually known, or that are not distributed or not shown generally in the society or in the country. This is important, and of course you can apply this for also for teachers, depending on what is available in the country. The teachers like you now, the trainee teachers, are trained for example, the country actually, although it hopes to have more technological adaptation of an application in teaching process, but still it needs to know its limits. So the teachers need to be trained on these technological ways that we can apply in our teaching processes, in our teaching practices. At the same time, it needs to see those hopes that it can be applied in the future by those teachers. So they have to be trained in these technological uses. Also, those teachers also needs to be trained in solving problems of the society, the real problems of the society, because we need them to know these problems and to be able to face them and to be able to solve them better than solving problems that are not directly related to their society, like problems coming from Western cultures. Although it's good to have a good skill in knowing these problems, but it's not that much influential or beneficial to know them, as it's more important that they know their society exact problems, real problems and current problems, and how to solve them better than bringing different problems from they are not known or not related to our culture and not related to our society. So this is important, that what is known in the geographical, I mean, this is social, but still this is only an example to show to you that it's really important to connect between what we want to teach our students or teach our trainee teachers and so on, with the geographical conditions, the social conditions that are related to certain country or certain place. Also, climatic conditions determine the way schooling buildings are designed. We know that in these countries that always have ice, have a lot of ice and so on, they build it in the triangle shapes, for example. So it's easier for people, or easier to that this ice all comes down in those countries or those places where it's like a coastal area. The buildings, the content and the buildings of this the content of this building are different from those who are from those schools that are built in the mountainous places. Of course, they are different. The shapes also is different because it depends on the colors. I mean, you can think of the paint, the shape, the color, the content also, materials, the materials that are used in building these buildings. The school buildings differ from one place to another depending on the climate condition in that place. Some school buildings, for example, do not have air conditioning, because they don't need it. The climate is cool or cold in most times of the year, so no need for air conditioning. While other places, like hot conditions, like a hot climate, like our condition here in Oman, we need air conditioning in everywhere because it really comes very hot during the school year. So also, this is what I mean by temperatures, or so the temperatures also affect the time at which schools can reasonably begin in the morning and when they end. We know that some countries start at 8, other countries start at 6. The schools start at 6, at 8. Most of the countries, the schools start at 7:30, but some countries 6 or 7 is still dark. Depends on the climate. So because it is still dark, it's really difficult for them to start their school day. So they delay it till 8 o'clock sometimes. So depending on the temperature, and these countries that are very cold, children is so difficult to take them out from their houses from the early morning, so they actually start a bit later because of that reason. Those so the temperature of the country also, or the temperature of the climate, determines many things in the, as we said, the air conditioning, the availability of air conditioning or fans sometimes, and so on. This is important. Also, climatic conditions also influence the education system in relation to time of vacation. What time is the schools are off? We know that in this hot weather, it's really difficult for students to or for schools to start or to be on in summer time, because it's so hot for students and for teachers. So this is why our education system here in Oman closes between this month, the hottest month in the year, between the end of May or beginning of June till beginning of September. So that is the hottest time that will be a bit difficult for students, for teachers, for schools to manage the teaching at that in this time. Other schools or other education systems, depending on and how they, for example, in Australia start the first semester with them starts in January. So that's the first semester with them, while we have January vacation here in Oman, and February is the second semester for them. Actually, August is July and August is between July and August the first semester starts. So or the second semester starts. So depending on the climate, this is all because of the climate conditions and how this show the or determine the time of vacations of the schools and teachers. Also, in the climate or geographical factor, we have the second element of it is the population distribution of the country, of the place. That is really important, because actually the population density, for example, كثافة سكاني, determines the numbers of schools needed and how well they are equipped in each place. So those places that have more population density, we have to build more schools in them, and those who are in rural areas that have less destination or less, sorry, population density, we have less, very limited numbers of schools, because we don't need to build a lot of schools because of the population number is very small. So for example, also in urban areas like in Muscat and those big cities, those schools is because they are cities. Most people here are well educated, need higher quality of education, so those schools are well equipped with adequately qualified teachers and administrative personnel. Or in rural areas, the schools are small because they have small numbers, with one teacher for 10 up to 40 students in the same class, because it's really difficult to send teachers in these rural areas. At the same time, the number of students are very limited, so no need to have a lot of students. And also because actually, and this is a social influence somehow, is that the people, the parents and the members of society in these rural areas are not given or putting a lot of importance or high importance for education in these areas. So this is why it's really difficult to let all of those people to attend, or those children to attend schools. Of course, we don't have this, hopefully we don't have this problem in Oman somehow, alhamdulillah. I mean, we used to have it, but now we don't have it anymore. Hopefully, but still you can find this problem in different areas of the world, like in some African countries, especially in the rural areas of these countries. And this is of course because it's, as we said, that it's really difficult to for those students to attend sometimes, and because their parents do not put a lot of weight and importance for The third element of geographical factor is land configuration. And here in land actually we mean by land configuration is the structure of the land, the shape of the land. Usually this influence architectural structure of the school building, and somehow it's related to the climate because actually it is interrelated to it, as it is that those who have large land configuration, usually the school and the location of the school becomes big because they have a large land configuration, they have a lot of space, while those that have very limited land configuration or very limited and small lands, we need to build the schools usually in different let's say different levels, like and here we actually take, because we don't have a lot of space, like in Singapore, for example, most of the schools cannot be in one level or two levels only, because they do not have that big land space to build their schools, and so they have very small, limited, because of they have also a lot of population, a big population density on them, كثافة سكانية عالية. So what happens is that they build their schools, they build their houses, they build everything. Their buildings actually are more taking the levels, a lot of levels, higher levels, and so on. توسع رأسي on them more than vertical distribution. So this is important. Also, land configuration determines the content and activities of the curriculum, which are intended to enable the individual to adapt to their environment, because we need to know which kind of land this society have, and how I can put or shape and put the activities of our curriculum and the activities for the students to know their environment, to know the features of their environment. So if that environment is, for example, agricultural environment, which means that students will have a lot of activities, better to have students to go in fieldwork trips to see these lands, to see these farms, and to know their environment. And those the other environment that is more ice environment is really difficult for students to have these field trips and so on. So determines the curriculum and some contents and activities of the curriculum. This is for the first factor, that is the demographic factor. And now let's move on to the economic factor. The economic factor is, and we have actually, it's very important, has a high determinant of any education system in the world, and actually there is a mutual relationship between the economy of a given country and its education system. How this happen? Actually, economy affects education in different ways, in several ways. For example, the quality of education service, خدمات التربوية provided by the country, by the government, depends on the economic strength of that country. If the country has high economy, strong in its economy, it will, of course, it will give more money and will offer high quality education service for its society. But if the country is poor, does not have a lot of money, this means that actually this will affect the service, the educational service that are provided for their members of the society. It will be very limited. The schools, the buildings will be very limited, very small, will not have a lot of educational resources, will not have a lot of activities, and so on, because actually, as we said, the expenditure of the educational services will be less and limited. The expenditure on education, that is how much I expend how much I spend in education will be limited and will be determined by the economic conditions of the country. And this is important to know. How much I have economy, how much my economy is high, determines how much I can spend on education, how much I can give more and more quality educational services for my society. And this is important. So the idea of education as a long-term investment is very important to know, which means that actually those countries who think that actually I will spend more and more in educational services because I want more quality or high quality education for my students, because for my children or for the members of the society, because actually I know that by the end those graduates will add more in the economy, will help in making the country's economy better because of their skills, high quality skills and so on. In that case, those countries who know that this is actually education is a long-term investment for the economy of the society of the country, those countries succeed in putting more spend. Although I'll spend more, I'll put more in education, but I know that all of this will come back to me later, after 12 years, after 20 years. This will come back to the society, because actually this will add on the economy of the level, or increase the higher level of economy of the society, of the country. And this is important. So it's through education that sustainable economic development can be achieved, and the education system is seen as the main provider of well-educated and trained manpower needed for the economic growth, because all countries want to know that actually it's actually an economic investment when I invest on education, and when I invest on humans, I actually invest on economy. I actually improve and make my economic growth goes better and quicker. So this is what I mean. More education, a better economy for sure. So the highly educated earner, if he is or she is more educated, this will spend and contribute significantly more to the economy than does the less educated earner. So as much as I give, in education, as much as I take in economy.